Hi, I'm Dave Shor, CEO of Linc. This is Karina Costa, our president. And so we're going to talk to you today about culture. And before we do that, I'm going to give you a brief intro about our company and how some of the substantial changes we've had recently with our technology and our pace of scaling is impacting our culture to its core. So let me give you a little background on our device. We started as a single device. A smart compass that allows you to locate anyone or anything for miles, anywhere in the world, completely decentralized, no infrastructure, and doing so at a unique level of security. And this was initially, our market was consumer. And our early success focused around outdoor enthusiasts and families. But at our core, we wanted to continue to not just grow the company, but focus on our values. And for us, that meant saving lives. Initially, part of the motivation to start the company was to help with wandering for Alzheimer's special needs and those that need extra care. And then ultimately that evolved into work with government, where Linc was able to demonstrate a 61% reduction in time spent to locate wounded and unconscious soldiers. And this is through use of the device. But the real core of where we're going, we'd yet to establish. It lay in our software, the underlying technology that powered these devices. Essentially, we're changing the way that location data is transmitted. And we're doing so through the creation of a new communication standard, one that allows us to transmit any low bandwidth data for miles, completely decentralized, no infrastructure, that's uniquely difficult to intercept or detect. And we first applied this to location data, and as we were building this out, really began to understand the applications extended far beyond that. And we're talking anything from financial to cryptocurrency to other sensitive data, any small packet data really. And we were creating a technology that in some senses could rival Bluetooth in many use cases. And at the core of what we were building was beyond a device, but really an ecosystem powered by Linc. And this technology, through our software, initially via modules and then by itself, is infinitely scalable and can be integrated into a broad range of devices. Anything from drones to two-way radios to mobile phones, and we're already having collaborations with leading manufacturers. So what that essentially brought us to in a very, very short period of time is from a company that was creating a device and going in a linear growth path to a company that was ready for massive scale relatively quickly. And it brought on different challenges. So initially, we'd received the question, how scalable is this when we're talking about the devices? Now we have people coming to us and saying, okay, I see this as unicorn potential, but tell me, how are you going to scale quickly enough? What are you going to do to get there on pace? And a lot of that came down to, of course, you have the execution, which everybody thinks about, but hiring and culture is super critical. And thankfully, to get there, we'd already made a key hire. We brought on board from Techstars our president, Karina Costa, and how we met Karina was great. Essentially, we were in Techstars Anywhere, and we were selected. It was one of the most competitive classes. We were selected by Karina and her partner. She actually created the Techstars Anywhere program and ran it. And after spending time with her, we decided to bring her on board, and we were grateful enough to be able to have her come on board as our president. And she's going to talk to you today about how we are changing our culture, and she's building the culture that is infinitely scalable and what we need to have as a company.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Karina. Here? It is on, right? Cool. Thank you. Just a little bit about how I got to meet Linc. So I first met Linc about 2 years ago. they were in the process of being selected by my program at Techstars. And, at the time I had about 10 years of experience as an entrepreneur and investor. That really led me to work and live in 4 different continents and really work and invest in over 100 companies. When I look at Linc, and I remember right in the first interview call they had, I told there was something different than any other company. I think I remember telling my former business partner Ryan, there's something wrong. We need to invest in this company because I literally feel like I would work for them. So that kind of something compelling and kind of crazy that really attracted me to the team. But what it really was sort of an opportunity that I saw huge opportunity on building a larger team, a larger culture, and really apply a lot of the learnings and things that I've seen that patterns that have worked and not worked with many other companies before. As they've mentioned, Linc started off as a consumer electronics company. As we then evolved into a much larger, greater strategy of expanding and scaling way beyond our device into many other products, it quickly became really evident to us that, as we crafted this pitch and this vision, a lot of our team was very lost and I think resistant, a great amount of resistance that we felt as well. What does this mean? This vision is sort of abstract. What does this mean to me and to my role and to what I'm doing in the present? And what do I care about where the company is going in 10 years if I have to execute on something that is happening today? By the way, this was while we were, leading up to mass production of our huge pre-sale campaign. So it was obviously a point that we had to, realize and really conclude that in order to, your product and your vision and your company is going to be evolving constantly, and that is also going to be happening with your team. So there are a few things we learned. First of all, that, this process of iterating and building a great vision, that's going to happen all the time. Vision is not something that you just lock yourself in a room once a year and then just do it. That's happening constantly. At the same time, you're working on the present. And that's always going to work. That's always going to be the fact, right? You're always going to be thinking about what you're going to be doing 6 months and 18 months ahead at the same time as you are executing on the present product that you have. And so it's really about setting the right expectation for your team. That's what's required. That's what's building a company is all about. So you have to be good at both. Another aspect that became, evident to us is that we now had to scale and grow much quicker than we thought. So really being able to, change the pace that you're working. And in this case for us, what it meant was addressing team and culture much sooner than we thought. And so you want to work on your culture actually before you start that hyper-growth process. So then you're ready when you expand your team and grow, for things to go in the right direction. So culture being really the centerpiece of any great company. I've decided to highlight a few learnings. There's, so many things we learn every day, and we learned last year, but there were around 7 different lessons learned that we thought it would be helpful to share with you guys today that could likely apply to your company or, your entrepreneurial journey in general. So first one being trust. Trust being in the, very center of any relationship. There's a couple ways, you can read a ton about trust, of course, but I just wanted to share a couple of ways that we found effective to build trust across teams, and founding teams especially. Being prioritizing towards really good communication and not assuming that because you are a small team and all of you are friends, that communication is going to be easy. It's actually not going to be easy at all. So understanding and just, knowing that that's something that you need to prioritize and spend time on, which often comes with something that we used to call sort of radical honesty. you want to be honest and be able to give each other feedback. There's a lot of things that, it's feedback that you're not going to be hear from anyone else, your investors, your, colleagues and friends, and definitely not your parents, but only your co-founders and the people that are working next to you. So being able to give each other, radical, candor feedback in a way that it's positive and empowering to your team, it's very important. Along that, with that vulnerability, at Techstars we have a number of different ways where we invite companies and founders to share their founder stories. The reason why, the reason why you're here. Like, even to come to this meeting today, there's certainly very different reasons why each of you are here today. And behind building a company, you and your co-founders and early team members definitely have different, reasons for being there. Understanding what those are really helps you build empathy with your team, and helps you really build more trust and a stronger team. In a more day-to-day basis, something we do at Linq is we often start meetings with red, yellow, and green, personal and professional check-in. And what that, I can, if you guys are interested, just grab me later and I can explain what that is. But it's really about, if you're red, so which means that you're sort of like not present on a personal level, something happened, your house is on fire, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the best out of that person in your team when you're trying to have a product conversation or a roadmap discussion. So being able to share with that, how we are personally and professionally and help each other really brings energy and trust amongst the team, so you can feel at your best as a whole. Startups are a learning machine. A lot of the value of, that's behind building a company is your ability to learn quickly, iterate, and, be smarter than anybody else trying to solve that problem in the market. If you think about big companies, they're always going to have, bigger budgets and more resources to execute than you. That's obvious, right? The real big competitive advantage that a startup has against anyone else in the market is your ability to be lean, fast, and really iterate very quickly and understand the changes in the market in a way that, a bigger company that doesn't move so fast is not able to do. So bring in, these skill sets. Curiosity, which is essential, intellectual curiosity, people that are interested in solving problems and learning as much as possible from your customers, from everyone. Bring that kind of energy to your team. And then a sense of speed, learning faster than you might as well in some other circumstance, because you will need it. And with that, it comes perseverance. So, everyone here probably heard hardware is hard. Building a company is hard, but building a hardware company is actually harder. And the reason for that is because the learning cycles of building a hardware company are actually much longer and much more expensive than software. So what that means is that you have a lot more risk in order to execute on your plan. So there's going to be a lot of failures in the process, right? That's obvious. And you're really defined, or your success is really defined by your ability to deal with that failure. So you want to surround yourself with a team that allows you to, that deals really well with failure. Actually, take a hit and come back for more. And people that are, able to learn from their mistakes and just keep going, because that's really what's about building a company. Success doesn't come, success comes really from that iteration of, I think it's really hard to predict success, honestly, and if people could do that, that will be, could make a lot of money. But I think one thing that is common around companies that succeed is the persistence and perseverance of never giving up on your goal. Hiring. So try to bring in people that are better than you. A great way to do that is to think about people that you're interviewing and looking at as, if it was an opposite situation, if you were the one seeking for a job, if you would work for that person. Do you have the same values? Are you aligned in terms of skill sets? Do this person actually have skill sets and experience that you don't have? Is this person smarter than you? Do you think, do you look up to him or her? If you think that way, that's probably the kind of person you want to hire. Just want to go a little bit faster on this. The same thing with intellectual honesty, which is really knowing really well what you don't know. As a founder and CEO, your job is really to figure out what you're not good at, and being able to overcome failures really well and ask for help. So surround yourself with mentors and people that can help you and overcome hard times. Discipline and focus as well. So it's, time is very scarce. Actually, I just ran out of time myself. It is important, but I'm 1 minute away from finishing. It is essential that you manage your time, your priorities really well. That you are organized about your time and where you're spending your focus. That you take care of yourself. Like an athlete, right? You sleep well, you're eating well, you're exercising, or doing whatever that helps feed your energy to bring your best to your company. You are the biggest liability and the biggest asset of your company as a founder. And lastly, orchestration. It is, when you have the arrow pointing in the right direction, your job is to help the team execute it, and that really comes down to, putting measurements of success and tracking your ability to execute against that plan. I left 3 different tools, basically references, because I know the presentation is going to be shared later, that were certainly super helpful to me, and I hope if you guys are interested, look it up as well, and happy to chat more in the end. Thank you.
Awesome, Dave and Karina, thank you very much. And we have time for a few questions. One from me quickly. So you were talking about how hardware is harder because of the slower iteration cycles and feedback loops. Are there any hacks or tips or tricks you've seen folks employ to make that faster, or to kind of combat that slow nature of feedback loops in hardware?
I don't know if I could speak about the faster, but I could speak about the cheaper.
Yeah, that's great.
In terms of runway, that's actually kind of very, goes very similarly. Rapid prototyping. So if you think a company is really series of experiments, right? If you think about everything you do as a small experiment, and invest in building out an MVP, or if that concept of a minimum viable product, minimum viable idea, what is it the minimum amount of time and money and resources I can put behind this experiment to figure out what I need to figure out? That really goes a long way when you don't have a lot of resources and time.
That's great. Thank you. Questions from the audience?
So, 2 questions. What is your transmission range? I'm sorry. What is your transmission range on your unit? And what kind of protocol do you use in communications?
Yeah, range and protocol that you guys use?
Range up to 5 miles on the ground, 20 in the air. And it's a custom design protocol.
Awesome. We got one back here.
That's the community.
Yeah, one back here.
Hi. Early on in the presentation, you had in an application slide a phone. Have you contacted any phone manufacturers? And if so, what was their sentiment? Yeah.
Actually, 2 of the leading global phone manufacturers have reached out to us, specifically regarding integration into phones from a software perspective. And so ultimately, with some of the hardware being introduced into phones in the relatively near future, we'll no longer need to have modules, and we'll be able to run the software on the phone directly using those parts, and which can then integrate between your phones, your drones, and any other device that's powered by Linc, which creates a broad ecosystem around the communication standard.
Any other questions? Oh, got one more.
Are these protocols infinitely scalable, or is there like a maximum number of devices which the network can support?
So the devices right now, by themselves, we have a self-imposed limit of 12, simply because of the usability factor of going through. But in terms of what we've developed from the network and our software, we can have tens of thousands in a single area without interference. And that's based on a number of the patents that we've filed in our communication protocol.
Awesome. Oh, we got one more right here. One sec.
Oh,
Just get you the microphone. Hold it really nice.
Hi, thank you. There was a screenshot that was a display of the device, and it said Karina 1.9 miles or whatever it said. Aside from distance, what information does the device provide?
So the goal is to keep it as simple as possible, like one button simple. And so it's distance and direction. And so you see that expanding arrow sends you in the direction of your party. There are other features built in, anything from safe zone to many others from home base and the like. But to keep the UI is so critical to us that we want to keep the base screen as easy as possible. We did actually an exercise in Thailand with the Thai government, and despite literacy and language challenges, Thai recruits were able to learn to use it in under a minute. And that's so core to what we're doing and how we design our UI.
Awesome. Great. One last super quick question, lightning question from me. As a future frontier tech hardware founder, what's one non-obvious resource you'd want to share with someone in the room? It could be a blog, a tool.
So I
know you shared the three.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, it's fair to say one I think podcast that I followed for years, and I literally can't miss anything that comes from them, is A16Z, so Jason Horowitz podcast. It just have such a immense variety of deep tech founders speaking about their own journeys and interesting, cool technology, things around that. But honestly, I love that question so much that that could be actually something if you're okay with sharing a list, I can probably find, a number of really cool tools to share with. In fact, there's a managing director I used to work with who collected a huge tool set for founders and entrepreneurs that I'm happy to share with everyone.
That's great. Yeah, I can maybe post it in the description of the video when we publish it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm happy to.
Well, thank you guys
Thank you
both for coming. Appreciate it.